Okay, so what I want to get into the habit of doing is after every book I read, or at least the books that I took some value out of, what I want to do is kind of summarize my notes, expand on them a bit, just to make sure I'm actually retaining what I'm reading and I'm applying it rather than just reading it, getting that dopamine hit from whatever information I just learned and then moving on and not actually changing anything in my life. So I feel like that's the habit that I'm going to try to get into. And the first book I'm going to try with is The One Thing by Gary Keller. Now, I started reading this book around 2 weeks ago, I think. I read it pretty quickly. I think I finished it in less than 10 days, maybe a week. Actually, probably around a week. And the reason I didn't even know about this book until I just went on GPT and said, listen, this is my situation right now. There's too much going on. I need to streamline everything in my life. My thought process, what I'm doing, what I'm working on. Recommend some books for me. So I recommended a couple of books, and based on like the summaries that it gave, The One Thing by Gary Keller kind of hit home in terms of what I was looking for. And so I just decided to read it, and it was a really good book. And so I just kind of have some notes on my phone. I'll read off my phone really and just kind of expand. And so the first thing that I made a note of was actually a Russian proverb in the beginning of the book. And this kind of illustrated the way I'm feeling, at least the way I've been feeling for the past couple of years, which is if you chase two rabbits at once, you won't catch either. Let me repeat that. If you chase two rabbits at once, you won't catch either. And that's kind of the feeling that I've been getting, where I'm chasing more than two rabbits at once. I'm, focusing on uni. I'm doing the bare minimum just to get like a decent GPA. I'm applying to internships. On the other side, I'm doing high ticket sales with School of Yallah. I was also looking into getting on a different offer. And then I did YS loyalty for like 2 weeks. And then now I'm thinking about doing shigs again. These are all genuine full-time jobs. Like most people in university are only studying. And then most people that are high ticket closers are working full-time. And then most people in the info product space are working full-time. All of these are different paths that I could take. But if I don't choose one and I don't commit to it and I keep giving 10% effort to each, I'm not actually going to get anywhere. I'm not going to get to a point where I'm gaining mastery in a single topic or activity or industry. And so the decision I need to make soon, or at least the decision that's been weighing on my mind in the past couple of months, is what do I need to prioritize? And so that proverb really hit home. So if you chase two rabbits at once, you won't catch either. So this says, Pareto's principle applied to a to-do list becomes a success list. So just to kind of think back to the book, it kind of distinguished between a to-do list and a success list. And so the difference is a to-do list is just the stuff that you need to do like basically every single day. But then a success list is, out of those things, what are the 20% of things that are going to get you the 80% of the results? So let's say, for example, that on a to-do list, you have to do an assignment, for me at least, like I have to do an assignment, I have to study for this midterm, and I also have to take on a call, and then I also have to, let's say, read a book, right? In terms of the results that I'm looking for in the next couple of years, out of those, like whatever I just listed, what is the 20% that will get me the most results? If I'm being honest, it would probably be reading the book, because that's going to have actionable steps that, in the future will help me, and maybe taking the call, because then that's experience towards something that I'm working towards. Assignments and whatever, that's more like in the short term. It's not really going to help me in the long term, other than just maintaining my GPA. So that's just a kind of an example. It's not really a good example because there's not that much on the list, but that was just an example, and it's something that I should probably start doing more. First of all, writing to-do lists, and then second of all, highlighting the ones that are actually most important, so I could, do them first and apply, the most effort into them. All right, third thing, multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time. So multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time. And so a core concept of the book was that multitasking is a myth. Us as humans, we don't multitask. And so when you do multitask, what you're doing is just increasing the likelihood that you're going to fail. I'm laughing because it actually makes a lot of sense now that I verbalize it. But when you multitask and when you do multiple things at once, as in the channel and YS loyalty and high ticket closing, you're just increasing the likelihood that you screw up all of them at once. So that's just some food for thought. Okay, when finding your purpose, ask, what's the one thing I can do in my life that would mean the most to me and the world? Such by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary. I don't know, I had a hard time reading that. But another question that's been on my mind for a while is, what is my purpose? Now again, I don't know if I made a video about this, but I I know my purpose in terms of my overall purpose, right? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. My purpose is to worship Allah the way He deserves to be worshipped and eventually enter Jannah. But that doesn't change the fact that I still have a dunyawi purpose. I still have a purpose in this dunya that I need to achieve. In my opinion, it's not enough for me to just do my obligations and pray and fast and whatever. Those are the best things I could do, 100%. They're the most high return on investment thing. But at the same time, I also want something else. I want something else that's going to help me build that legacy. Sadaqa Jariyah, for example. And so the question is, what is that purpose? And I can't definitively say it's one thing or another, but what I'm really, really, really leaning towards, and what's been on my mind for a while, in fact, I actually have a diary entry on my phone from even before I started the YouTube channel, I think. It was before I started the YouTube channel. It was about how I wanted to make an educational system that rivals the current system. And, of course, raises a generation of people who are on deen, and more recently I've been exploring the concept of high agency as well. And that's a concept that I would want to introduce. So it's still developing. I am leaning towards it. But just to summarize, that question helped me kind of internalize the purpose a bit more. And also consolidate it. I mean, I kind of knew it before, but now that, it kind of answers the question, it gives me more leaning towards it actually being my purpose. All right. So this is a question that I should ask myself. I took a note of it. Am I doing the best I can or the best that can be done? And the purpose of this question, from what I remember in the book, is there are two questions you can ask for yourself when you're putting an effort towards a task, right? Am I doing the best I can, or am I doing the best that can be done? And the reason this kind of opens up your thought process is oftentimes we just feel like we want to do 100%, when in reality there could be more done. And let me kind of figure out exactly how I want to phrase this so I can also fully understand it as well. Let's say I have a task. Let's say I'm running a company and I have a task. If I'm doing the best I can as in 100% effort, I'm doing 100% effort in the marketing and sales and all of that. But what's actually smarter is for me to just hire someone. And that's the best that can be done. And so I could focus 100% of my effort on, for example, operations, and they could focus on sales and marketing. That's just an example. So the question you should always ask yourself is, am I doing the best I can or the best that can be done? And it should always be the latter. One half of knowing what you want is knowing what you must give up before you get it. So one half of knowing what you want is knowing what you must give up before you get it. Now, at this point, everyone knows that to get what you want, you need to sacrifice other things. You can't have the best of all worlds. Again, it hits home because I feel like in my current situation, I'm trying to get the best of all worlds. But if I really want to get what I want, then there's going to have to be a lot of sacrifices. And I feel like those sacrifices are not going to be material. I feel like they're going to be social sacrifices. A lot of doubts and criticism, which is why I need to get really, really clear on what I actually want. All right, two more. When you give your one thing your most emphatic yes and vigorously say no to everything else, extraordinary results become possible. So one more time. When you give your one thing your most emphatic yes and vigorously say no to everything else, extraordinary results become possible. I remember this chapter, he was kind of talking about just saying no and getting really used to saying no. And something else he also said is every yes should be surrounded by 1,000 no's. Now this is more applicable towards the end of your, maybe not end, but towards the progression of your career when you're kind of valuable, you have some value. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of seeing this now. I'm not going to say I'm valuable or anything, but compared to the people that I sometimes surround myself with, they kind of see me as the guy who understands marketing a bit more because I've had the YouTube channel and everything. And so I've actually gone over the past month or so, I've got on a couple of quote unquote opportunities to work on like new businesses or whatever. And they're very exciting in the beginning because first of all, there's the ego boost. All these people think I'm valuable. I want to help them. I can potentially make money. But then again, just clarity on what you actually want. Sure that equity in this business can kind of give you a return on investment or whatever, but at the end of the day, you need to know what you want and then focus fully on it. Give it your most emphatic yes and then vigorously say no to everything else. And then last thing I made a note of is when you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. So when you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. This is very interesting. I would say I'm probably, alhamdulillah, better at this than most, at least most people I've met. But limiting beliefs are a huge thing for me and for other people as well. I know examples, I'm not going to say who, but I know specific examples of people who have really, really bad limiting beliefs. And so when, for example, you want to achieve something, let's say I want to, I don't know, bench 3 plates. I can't even bench 2 plates, but let's say I want to bench 3 plates, right? If someone asks me, why haven't you benched 3 plates yet? And I say, I don't know, I just feel like genetically I'm not there. Like I just don't have the genes to do it, or I don't have the discipline, or whatever. The moment you actually argue for those limitations is the moment that you get to keep them. As in, it's the moment that you've justified it to yourself. You've used it as an excuse. And so instead, the approach could have been different. Instead of saying, genetics or whatever, you could have just said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find a way to overcome it. And a question you could always ask yourself when you want to achieve something is, this kind of goes to the whole high agency thing. So the article, highagency.com. It was a really good article by George Mack. I'm excited to read his book when it comes out. But the question he always poses is, does it defy the laws of physics? If it doesn't, then with enough effort, you could probably do it. And again, it kind of goes back to the other quote of, the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world end up changing it. And so, if we're being honest, most of the things we want to achieve, they're not even that crazy to think about. Like, there's probably 1 million people that have achieved it, whether it's getting married early or benching 3 plates or making $1 million or $1 billion. Like, there's a lot of billionaires out there. And so if other people have done it, why can't you go a step further? If it doesn't defy the laws of physics, then why can't you do it? Even if no one else has done it. Because at some point, there was a first billionaire. There was a first person to fly a plane, or fly in general. There was a first person to run a 4-minute mile. And then after that, people got that belief that they could actually do it. Anyways, I think this Yap session has gone on for long enough. I feel like this was quite a healthy exercise, to be honest. Kind of forces me to go back and relive some of the revelations I had, so I could apply them and not only just, coast through the book without actually applying anything. Because then, like I said before in that one video, I think it was the first video, there's 2 types of people, or there could be 2 types of people, right? People who read a lot but don't really apply much, and then people that don't read that much, but whatever they read, they apply. And then the latter always do better than the former. So I think this is the point of this book. Figure out what rabbit I want to chase. Figure out what my purpose is. And then constantly ask myself, what's the best that can be done? All right, I think I'll end it here.